All right, so welcome back to the channel, and today I have an interesting topic for you guys, and that is why I personally believe you shouldn't be financing consumer goods. So I'm going to give you two reasons why you shouldn't be financing consumer goods, and then on the back end, I'm going to give you one reason why it might actually be a good idea to finance a consumer good. So now, first of all, when I say financing, I'm talking about a company is offering or a financial institution is offering a payment plan with interest kind of attached to that. That's what I mean by financing. I'm not talking about just using a credit card and paying it off at the end of the month, although we could talk about that in its entirety later. Now, so disclaimer, huge purchases such as boats or like houses or, you know, like student loans and basically purchases where you probably wouldn't, or no normal person would usually have the capital to just buy those outright, I'm going to exempt from this list because there is in certain cases no way to get around it. Now, I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible. I'm going to do the wrist check for people. I am wearing my Rado Hyperchrome, awesome watch, I love it, but I'm going to dive right down into the first reason why you shouldn't be financing consumer goods. And the first reason why I believe it is because it teaches us to be impatient, not goal-orientated, and doesn't teach us delayed gratification because we're impatient. So now, what I mean by that, and I'm going to give you an example. First of all, my Grail watch is an Omega Seamaster Aquaterra with the kind of gray and accented blue dial with a rubber strap. That retails for around $7,200 Canadian. Could I walk into an AD and finance it? Yes, you can finance watches. You can finance, if you go on to almost any online retailer, you can finance things from shirts. You can finance it, go into like a Best Buy or Visions, you can finance a TV, you can finance furniture, pretty much anything, you can finance it. And when I say that, first of all, that watch, it retails for around $7,200 Canadian. I could go finance that, but it doesn't teach me delayed gratification. It doesn't teach me the value of saving. It teaches me the value of going and looking at something and be like, oh yeah, I can afford that. So what they do is they break down the payments into manageable chunks. Now, I used to be a salesperson. Not a good one, by the way, but the way we justified certain things to customers was we broke down the larger sum that they didn't want to. They saw that big payment number and they thought it was scary. And the way we broke it down was we would be like, oh, we're going to make it more manageable. Can you afford a coffee a day? You know, $2 or $3 a day? Then you can afford, you know, all of a sudden $90 more or $100 more a month almost, right? That's how we would do it. And they'd be like, $100 more a month, oh my goodness. But then they looked at it and they'd be like, oh yeah, sure, I can go without my Starbucks. But they usually don't. So the thing is that you're not delaying your gratification. You're basically being like, I want everything and I want it now. I'm not willing to save for it. Rather, I'm just going to buy it. And it actually teaches you impulse buying because you're like, oh, I like that. I'll pay for it over X amount of months. And, you know, there's quote unquote free loans. I understand about that. Like what I mean by that is that there's a loan where you don't pay for like 12 months, but the only problem is the interest hits you at the end of that 12 months if you didn't pay it off. Actually a very deceptive process. Yes, it does make it more manageable, but you shouldn't be purchasing those products because you aren't saving. It's not teaching you the value of saving. It's not teaching you the value of delayed gratification. It's not going to mean as much to you if you didn't hustle to get it. You're actually probably going to resent the purchase later on, and it's not going to make you as happy because you are still paying for it because the bank or the financial institution still owns it. And they can do whatever they want with it until you have paid everything off. The second part that I see as financial ineptitude is that people aren't planning and they are saddling themselves with an ever greater or an increasing debt burden. So you have, and I'm going to use this example, okay? Let's say you have your mortgage or rent payment, you have your car payment. Some people don't have car payments. I like to pay cash for my vehicles so then I don't have car payments. So then you have your insurance. Let's say you also, you know, have your Spotify, your Netflix. I understand those are nickel dimes things. You have like your food, you have your utilities, you have like internet, all these other things that are taking away from whatever your net earnings were at the end of the month when you have a job. Now, all of a sudden, if you have to start paying for couch bill, TV, and all these other consumer goods, I'm not even going to talk about the depreciation part of them when it's like they literally, especially for like a consumer good like a couch or a TV, like they literally fall off the cliff as soon as you walk out the store with those things. It's just, but you're financing them, and you're basically going ever so close to that point where you might not be able to make that payment. And I understand there's, like, we would say, quote unquote, safeguards in order for you to not make that, because it's a higher risk. And obviously, the higher the risk you are as a client, the larger your interest payment will be. And the thing is that you are basically one financial disaster away. Like, let's say you get fired. Let's say you have a huge medical expense. Let's say something comes up, the car breaks down, it's outside of warranty, and you have to fork over a couple $1,000s. What happens when you miss out on these payments? There might be a grace period for a certain amount of time, but what happens afterwards? What happens if this is a recurring thing? Then all of a sudden, you've lost. They could come and repossess those items that you've now paid into. It doesn't matter. Bank still owes them. You didn't buy them outright. You don't own them. So it's like you could end up with nothing and even worse credit, which means when you go to finance something else, you could have an even crazier interest rate. I would say keep a healthy buffer zone so that you don't have an issue. It also prevents you from saving. It prevents you from saving money, because when you're paying little bits out you're creating a tiny buffer zone where you can't save for a rainy day. You can't save for something to happen, right? And you're always going to be strapped. You're never going to experience financial freedom if you are always paying for something, if you're always making payments for something. It's just, you won't ever experience freedom. Now, on to the one reason why I believe financing might actually be a good idea. And that is because in certain cases, if you had that large sum of capital in an investment portfolio, sometimes the rates of your investment, your whatever your interest rates, your profits from your investment will actually outweigh the interest that could accrued on a loan. So sometimes, let's say you go to finance a vehicle, and let's say you get a 0.9% or a 1.9, whatever, and let's say you have an investment portfolio that makes 4% interest rate. So it would actually make more sense for you to leave the money in there and to finance that vehicle, right? And so at that point, right? That is probably the only reason why I would say that you should be financing stuff. Now, for me personally, I live by the advice I give. If I'm going to give something, I don't want to be a hypocrite. That's the worst thing that I could do. But at the end of the day, obviously, this is your money. It is your money. You can spend it however you want. You can be free. Don't take my advice. It doesn't bother me, but I still want to share it. Now, obviously, if you did like the video, I know that it is kind of a controversial topic, but that's okay. If you did like it, show some support, drop a like, make sure to subscribe, because, obviously I do stuff, and you're going to see more awesome stuff in the future because that's my channel name. But anyways, I will catch you later. So take care and have a fantastic day.